This is Gemara Baba Basra, Daf Kof Yod, and all the learning for this day, the day after Yom Kippur, Baruch Hashem, a day that we're all clean from Chet, should bring an incredible Zchus Refuah Shlema for Tinoik ben Miriam Ahuva B'siyata Dishmaya. We're holding at the end of the first wide line on Kotesam and Beis, and the Gemara begins by really bringing out some points in the previous sugya. Amar Rav Yechon Mishum Rashbi, Bikan Shetolan is Akalkola Bimukulkal. Based on that which we ended off with, we're discussing whether Yohaina's son was a Levi or not. Says the Gemara, he was referred to as a descendant of Menashe, and the reason is, says the Gemara, that we're Taila the Makulkal. Someone who has issues, we place him based on the one who has issues, and we're determining as if they are related. Rav Yesi Rav Chanina Amar Mehach. Rav Chanina concurs with the idea of Taylor Mekulkal and Mekulkal, and he says another source Mehacha v'gamu Tayv Tayar Ma'id v'Oisa Yalda Acharei Avshalom. Says the Basik, and Adoniah was very beautiful. Va'isa Yalda, and she gave birth Acharei Avshalom. She gave birth to Adoniah after Avshalom. So the pasuk seemingly is teaching us that Adoniah and Avshalom came from the same mother. But says the Gemara, we know that in history that's not true. Adoniah ben Chagit, Avshalom ben Macha, they had two different mothers. Elo, so what Shami Tajasa Maisa Avshalom? Timarad b'Malchos, since Adoniah did a similar Maisa to Avshalom, that he was Meir b'Malchos, therefore Tali Akosov, the pasuk considers it Avshalom as if they came from the same mother. Gemara begins by proving this concept. Another source for this. Says the Gemara, going back to the discussion of Yohaina's son, who he said he was the Kohen appointed by Micha, who was a grandson of Moshe Rabbeinu. Says the Gemara, based off of that, 7 lines to the bottom, Amar Rav Lazar. One should always cling, be next to Taivim, good, righteous, incredible people. Why? Moshe Rabbeinu married the daughter of Yisrael Tzipaira, who came out of him, Yohaina's son. Whereas Aaron married the daughter of Aminadav Elisheva, Yatzim Manu, Pinchas. So proves the Gemara that it was better that which Aaron HaKohen did, that which Moshe Rabbeinu did, as the daughter of Yisrael. Of course, Yisrael was an Ovid of a Zara, and thereby came out of them the appropriate people. Yohaina's son, who was also Ovid of a Zara, versus Pinchas, who of course was an incredible tzaddik. Says the Gemara, Pinchas not Yisrael. I'll see what's going on over here, but we know that Pinchas really came from Yisrael also. Fox Lazar, Bas Aaron Lakach, Loimos Butia, Loili Isha. My love, Dasim Yisrael. Shapita Magalim Avodah Zara. So it sounds like for this pasuk it came from Yisrael, who worshipped animals Avodah Zara. Says the Gemara, that's not what the pasuk means. Elazar didn't actually marry the daughter of Yisrael, but rather that when the pasuk uses pitbeit, it doesn't mean Yisrael refers to Yosef HaTzadik, who fought with his Yitzhara. Says the Gemara, 1 second, we know that when Pinchas killed Zimri, what were the other Shvatim doing? Other Shvatim were taunting him and saying, Ra'isem ben Buti. Look at his son of Puti, ben Shapitim Avi Ima Golam Zara. This one that his grandfather, his father's mother, who worshipped animals of the Zara, Yaharoi Nasi, Sheva Yisrael. He used to be the one that murdered, and he should be the Shevet of Yisrael. So they made fun of Pinchas in his mannerism. So that seemingly concurs with the ideology that Pinchas' grandfather, his mother's father, was indeed Yisrael of Avodah Zarah fame, Yisrael of Moshe Rabbeinu fame. Says the Gemara as we turn over to Kov Yedam and Aleph, Eliyavu Adime me Yosef, Ima Diime me Yisrael. Says the Gemara that really he came from both. If you're going to say his father's mother was from Yosef, then his mother's mother was from Yisrael. May Yosef. The Gemara proves that this was indeed true. Tekanami, I'll bring you a raya to him. Nos Butial, Tarti, Mashma, Bimnois, in the plural sounds like Tarti, and therefore two different people. One came from Yosef, one came from Yisrael. So Gemara says that really we can't bring any proof from here because he came from both Yisrael and Moshe Rabbeinu. Says the Gemara 4 lines down, Amar Rava Naisi Isha. Now we're on the topic of figuring out how the lineage could turn out favorable or not based on the one that they marry. Says Rava, if someone wants to marry a woman, you check her brother is a very famous Gemara, Basra Kov Yod. This is the Makar that you hear so many times during Shadochim. Oh, look at her brothers. And this is where it comes from. Shenamar, as the Pasuk says, said Basaminadav, so we know that her sister brother was Nachshain. He Matam Nachshan Mekan. From here we learn out that when you marry a woman, you should check into the brothers. Tana, what's the reason that one checks into the brothers? Says the Gemara 12 lines down. First, when the line is Ra'iv, you know what the reason is? Because most children resemble the brothers of the mothers, the uncles. So you want to know what type of children you'll have, you have to check the woman's brothers. The Gemara continues back to yesterday's daf, back to the story of Yonasan and Micha, the Avodah Zarah. Says the Basik, and those in the Shevet have done came and said to Yonasan, who brought you here? What are you doing here? What's going on? Amrulai explains the Gemara. Amrulai, the people from the Shevet have done said to Yonasan, Lami Moshe Kasis. Do you not come from Moshe Rabbeinu? I'll take care of Aloim. That with regard to Moshe Rabbeinu, it says, don't go any closer. Lami Moshe Kasis. Mazib Yadcha. La Moshe Kasis. Vatabaya Moidi Madi. So it says those the Shevet have done said to Yonasan, so many indications that you come from Moshe Rabbeinu, and yet and you, the one who has such incredible ichos, you're bringing worshipping idols. Amr Lahan Yonasan answers, such is my Messiah from my grandfather Moshe Rabbeinu. An incredible statement made by Yonasan that one should even hire himself out to Avodah Zarah and not come on to charity. Now just pause for a moment. In the perfect sense, what this teaches us is the power of not taking tzedakah, that before one comes on to taking from someone else, he should go and stoop down even to hire himself out to Avodah Zarah. So of course, what does this mean? This doesn't mean actually to worship Avodah Zarah. It means to clean up the room, etc. But Yonasan, that's the mistake he made. V'hu savar Avodah Zarah mamish v'lohi asachu Avodah Zarah Avodah shazara loy kedamar lei means you should even sell yourself to a strange work. Kedamar lei Rav leRav Kahana netoish nevilta b'shaika. Rav told Rav Kahana that instead of taking handouts, you know you should do? You should skin a carcass in the shuk. Ushkol igran, take payment. A disgusting work, but yet you'll make money. Don't say, oh, I'm so chashiv. V'zila be'imel sentence beneath my dignity. It's better to do anything, teaches Rav, than to come on to tzedakah. Finally, we continue. When David saw that Yonasan was learning after money, so he gave Yonasan a job that he could deal with his taiva. I'll be in charge of the storehouse. Shemar Shabuel ben Gershom and Menashe Nagid al Yitzrais. Chishbuel Shemai Valena said Shemayim. Rav Yecha Sheshav Lekel B'chol Liba. You know this verse to us that he returned to Hashem. He did tshuva. What an incredible, again, having the daf mimic the time of year, walking out of Yom Kippur. What's the daf that we learn? We learn about an incredible Baal Tshuva. Yonasan did complete tshuva all the way that David HaMelech appointed him to be to be in charge of the Eitzrais in the Beis HaMikdash. We continue back into the din of the Mishnah. We're 7 lines to the bottom. We quote the Mishnah that says that the Banim inherit and bequeath it to the father. Minolan says, from here we know this. The Pasuk says Ishki. If someone dies, and what happens? Ubenin Lai. So we darsh it Tam Lein Lai Ben or Yish Ben Ben Kaidim, the son comes first. Amalei Rabba Abaye asks Rabba Abaye, really, is this true? Ema Ika Ben Leiras Ben. Ika Bas Teres Bas. Ika Benu Bas Loi Hai Leiras Loi Hai Leiras. Says the Gemara, maybe if there's a singular heir, if there's only one Yeresh, that's when they each inherit. But maybe in a scenario where there's both sons and daughters, then neither get. Says the Gemara, Ve'ela, as we turn over to Kafyirim Beis, you're suggesting that if there's a son and a daughter, that no one inherits. Ask the Gemara, Ve'leman, said who's going to inherit this person if it's not going to be his own children? Eleman Leiros. Atav Arkasha Demasa Leiros. Should the ruler of the city inherit? Ask the Gemara, what exactly was your Hava Amina? Explains the Gemara, Achi Kamina, this is my Hava Amina. Ika benu bas lahayliras kulei v'lahayliras kulei elki adaldi le'ertu. Says the Gemara that maybe they should inherit equally. That the pasuk is saying if he has no son, then the daughter inherits. But if he does have a son, then they both should get equally. And the son does not get any mile over the daughter. Really, the way you're learning it is that the pasuk teaches us if there's one son, he gets the kulei nichse. Is that really what a pasuk is necessary for? That's obvious. But Dilma, so it can't be that therefore the chiddush is that when you have both, they both get equally. But Dilma, Kamashlan says Rabba, Debas Nami, Bas Yerushi. Maybe he's just teaching us this aside that a daughter gets Yerusha as well. Answers the Gemara, whom if we call Bas Yersha, if we call Bas Yeresha Nakla Nafka, we have a different pasuk that teaches us this din. So that's Yisai number one, that once we know that the daughter inherits, they can't be what the pasuk is teaching us, so must be teaching that the son comes first. Rav Acha bar Yaakov Aimer Me'acha, 10 lines down, the first one line is Nafka, says Rav Acha bar Yaakov, I'll give you a different makar that the son comes before the daughter. Me'acha says the pasuk, Lama Yigara Shem Avinu Mitach Mishpachta, the famous words of the Bnei Slavchad. Lama Yigara. Why should we get any less? Because there are no sons. So from here we can that if there was a son, therefore you have the makar that the son comes first. Says the Gemara, maybe this is the taina of b'nai Nachi, but that's not really the din. Nitna but is that? But once there's a Torah, maybe that's not true. Maybe this was Salavchad's taina. But Slavchad wasn't right, and maybe there is not a Kedimus to the son. Rather, Gemara folds and says, the MS is what we said originally, that what? We learned it out from the first pasuk when someone is nifter or beni in law, that teaches us that the son comes before the daughter. Ravina Amar, potential third mekar mehacha. Smack in the middle of the Amar, the first line is Hakaraiv. Hakaraiv Elav says the pasuk that the Yerusha goes to the relative who's closest to him. Akarav Karav Kaidem. Umay Korva Debad Mibas. So says the Gemara, and we think that the son is the closest relative. Ask the Gemara, is that true? Who said that the son is closer than the daughter? Sheben as we learned a few days ago. The son does Yid, marries the maidservant, and stay achuza. Says the Gemara, Yida, Bas, Lav Yidai. What is Yid teaching me? There's no din of Yid by the daughter. Therefore, the fact that the son comes before her is not a maila. This is where we learn it out from. So how could this teach us that the son comes first? So finally, he says the Gemara, three potential choices that it comes to the first pasuk of that when a man is nifter ubeni in lai, that teaches us that the son comes first. So we tried three mekayres, but we stuck with the first. With this we conclude. Mehacha, we can learn out from the following pasuk. Stachalta my son levinechem achreichem benechem, v'loy b'neisechem. L'miatal manir b'nechem v'nechem hachinami b'nechem lo b'neisechem. Says the Gemara bracha shiny. If that sounds familiar, because the Gemara is similar havamina, then maybe it only means days and it doesn't mean years. The Gemara said no bracha shiny. You'll pick it up from here b'siyata dishmaya.